Do you feel it's part of a religious leader's responsibility to speak out on issues that they strongly believe in and may be controversial? And do you ever get backlash from your opinions?
Of course I do. Yes. Well, and if I said nothing, I'd get backlash too, to be honest. But yes, I feel like it's every Christian, every believer's job to speak to justice and to speak the truth in love, as St. Paul says. And if we don't do that, then we are complicit. So I am perfectly happy to speak the truth in love, and in love, kindly and calmly and without calling names or being mean, but speaking the truth. And then, people do with it what they will. Sometimes, I've had people tell me that they disagree with me in nice and not nice ways, but I don't see any way around it, because because that's part of the call of every believing person, is to work for God's justice.
You are co-coordinator of the Greater Youngstown Community Dialogue on Racism.
Yes.
Why is that so important to you to be involved in that?
Well, if we pay attention to the news today, we hear that COVID-19 is causing the death of a disproportionate number of people of color. We hear that people are being shot, killed, just for being black. That we have one of the highest black infant mortality rates in the country here. And how you can know those things, it's easy to not know them, but how you can know those things and then not do something about it, I don't understand. So I think that many of the struggles we see in Youngstown and in our country are rooted in racism, classism, a lot of isms, but primarily racism. And so the dialogue goes back to what I was talking about before. It's people sitting around a table talking about some hard things from their own perspective, telling the stories of their lives, and people are changed by that. Everyone around that table walks away different, better, deeper hearted, more loving, more open to keeping the hard questions going. And that's what we hear over and over again. What's next? We have been awakened to the depth of this problem. What's the next thing that we can do? So I think that providing an opportunity for people to build relationships with people who are so much more like them than they ever imagined, that's a blessing.
You saw some incidents of racism throughout your life. Tell us about those.
Well, I think there were two things that struck me in my growing up years. First of all, when we moved to the second house we lived in 1976, we moved to a suburb of Chicago, and we were building a house. It was a beautiful house. My parents were so proud. They were so proud. And at the same time, several blocks away, another family was building a house, a black family. They burnt that house down 3 times, the neighbors did. 3 times. Eventually, they moved in. And I prayed for them, because I just thought, their neighbors on either side put up these huge bushes so that they couldn't see each other. I just thought, who would want to live like this? And I admired them. I really did. And, when we drove into the city for things, for dinner or to go to the museums or things, at a certain point, my dad and mom would say, roll up the windows and lock the doors. Roll up the windows and lock the doors. And when I was in college, I heard a black man talking about his experience of being black. And he said, do you know how it feels when people look at you and roll up their windows and lock the doors? I was like, I did that. I hurt someone like that. So there are a lot of other, another thing was I was in Belize for a year working for the church, and And in Belize, it's a very racially structured society, and the lighter skin you are, the more likely you are to be rich or in power. And if you're white, you are very likely to be rich and in power. And I was 21, I just graduated from college, I didn't know anything. And they put me in charge of teachers who had been teaching for 25 years. Why? Because I was white and because I came from the United States. Not because I had any qualifications whatsoever. I mean, it was so absurd to me. And I would say to them, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, it's okay, you're from the United States, you'll be fine. I'm like, oh. So at different points in my life, it's really struck me how racial disparities impact us in ways that we don't even realize, like the rolling up the window and locking the door. You know, it took me 20 years to figure that out, but I finally did.
You're currently also work as a member of the police chaplain corps.
Mm-hmm. Proudly.
What have you seen and how has that impacted you?
Well, I have a deep admiration for the police department here in Youngstown. And any of the officers that I have dealt with have all been incredibly respectful and I think really desire a safe, healthy city. I've done a lot of ride-alongs. I've assisted in various capacities, and again, when you do that, you see the depth of poverty here. You see, I mean, I remember driving around on the east side. This was a couple years after I came here, and just, you know, blocks and blocks of nothing, and some streets that were just rubble. You know, I was like, people live down there. So they see a lot, you know, and it's hard, and I have a lot of respect for the job that they do.
Built for the 21st century American workforce, Eastern Gateway Community College has 2 campuses and is a national leader in online learning. EGCC.edu is a digital gateway where 30,000 students are quickly transforming their financial futures through degrees, certificates, transferable credits, and higher paying jobs. And now, residents of the Mahoning Valley can enroll in summer classes for free. It's the EGCC Summer Guarantee. Eastern Gateway. America's new workforce starts here.